everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Debbie. Today on my channel, we're going to be making a homemade lemon meringue pie. This is one of my husband's favorites, so I'm going to treat him tonight to a lemon meringue pie. So the first thing we're going to do is make our crust, and I am making a double crust. This is a double crust recipe, so I think I'm going to half it, and then I'm going to make a disc and wrap it up in saran wrap, then put it in a freezer bag and freeze it for later. It's always nice to have an extra crust in the deep freeze, isn't it? Okay, so we're gonna get into that, but first I want to invite you to join my channel. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, and if you're new or you're coming back to see me, give me that thumbs up as always, okay? Let's get into making our double crust for the pie. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is put some flour in a bowl. I got kind of a bigger bowl so I can have a little more room to cut in the shortening. So the first thing we're gonna do is put our flour in, and it's 2½ cups. My flour's a little lumpy, so I'm going to run my knife through it a little bit to get some of those lumps down. We just want it to be fluffy. I think there we go. That's much better. So there's my ½ cup, and then 2 more cups. And there's 1 and 2. So we have 2½ cups of flour, and we're going to put some salt in there, which is a ½ teaspoon. Nope, a teaspoon. There's my oven. I have it preheating to 425 degrees because we're going to pop this in the oven and bake it about 15 minutes. You want your pie crust to be totally cool before you put any kind of a cream pie in it. So we're going to add about a teaspoon. So mix that around a little bit, and we're going to cut in our shortening, add some water, and that's a pie crust. Okay, so we're going to add 2/3 cup of shortening. I better get out a new knife. I don't want flour to be in my shortening. And we're going to mash that down in there a little bit so it's full. So this is 1/3 cup. And again, we're going to mash that in there. Level it off. And this will be the 2/3 cup. We're going to cut this into our flour. I have a pastry blender. You can do it with your fingers if you want even, or a fork, however you like to do it. But that's why I do get like a bigger bowl, just so it can be a little more dispersed in there, and I can cut it in little bits at a time. So just get this cut in to look like kind of like pea-sized crumbs. Okay, I think we've got it incorporated pretty good, just about where I want it. I don't know if you can see. And now we're going to add our water, which is a ½ cup. I'm going to get a fork to incorporate this. We're going to just add it a little bit at a time till all of it's sticking together pretty well. And usually I find it probably takes about all of this. You want your dough to be a little chilled Some people like to make their dough or their pie crust and then chill it in the refrigerator before they bake it. It helps with the shrinkage so it doesn't shrink up on you. Yeah, it took all the half a cup. Just get it to where it's pretty well all sticking together, and then we're going to form it into a disc and roll it out. Just kind of forming it, squeezing it together. I think it's ready. Okay. I'm going to kind of try to break this in half. This is what we have. Try and get it in half. Put one half on here. Roll it out. Put it in my pie pan, and then I'm going to sit it in the fridge for just a couple minutes before I bake it. I am using a pastry mat. I did get it off Amazon. I can try to link it in the description box if you're interested in it. It does help with the rolling process. And it's got a little measurement guide on it, like circles, like how big around the circles are, so you know how big a pie crust you're getting. You want to roll your pie crust out as big as you can. And pie crust, homemade pie crusts are not going to be perfect, so don't fret about that. I like to fold mine over in half and then bring it over and unfold it. And you see it's kind of just willy-nilly wherever it wants to go. It's uneven. Some sides have more hanging over than the other sides. That's okay. You're going to even it out. I'm going to set that aside real quick. I want to get this out of my way, but in the meantime, I'm going to form this into a little disc, like I said, because I'm going to be freezing this one. I want to make sure I get it sticking together pretty well before I freeze it. I don't want it to be cracking on me whenever I get it out. So I'm just going to do that, maybe like a 4-inch disc, and then I'm going to wrap it in some saran wrap, put it in a Ziploc freezer bag, and we'll have a pie crust for later. So let me do that. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, wrapped, ready to freeze. Let's get this out of our way. These wash up really wonderful too, very easy. Let's set that over there for now. We're going to pull our pie crust back, and we're going to take a knife. I'm going to try to even out the sides a little bit. You can see the longer parts hanging over. We'll just trim those off. And then we're going to tuck it under, pinch it a little bit, and she'll be ready to bake. When you were little, my mom used to cut these sides off and put them on a baking sheet for my sisters and I and sprinkle cinnamon and sugar on them and bake them. Did your mom ever do that? Oh my gosh. That was the best part of mom making a pie. Because when I was little, I didn't like pies. Well, I've always liked chocolate cream pie. That was the only pie I would eat. I didn't care for apple pies. I didn't want any kind of fruit pie that was fruit that was cooked. I just thought it felt too squishy in my mouth. I just didn't like the texture. Of course, now I like any pie except coconut cream because I don't care for coconut. But my mom would say, oh man, she's making a pie tonight. So we would be so excited. And if you got a little part like this, it's just not enough. You just add some of that, what you just cut off. Just stick it on there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Like I said, are you baking this to sell it or just enjoy it? You're making it out of love. So as long as it's made with love, it's wonderful. But yeah, I was like, run to tell my sisters, she's baking a pie. I don't know if you see what I'm doing here. I'm sure you all know how to do a pie crust, but I just take my fingers like this, leave a little bit in between, and just squeeze together. I just make that kind of on my pie crust. And of course, some of the pieces of the pie crust, cut off would be bigger than others, so we would always be fighting for the bigger piece. That's funny how kids always do that. They always look like, which one's bigger? Now when I go to a birthday party or something and they have the cake cut, I'm like, which one's smaller? Which one has less icing? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and poke a few holes in here. A couple on the side. And I'm gonna stick it in the fridge for just a couple minutes, and then I'm gonna bake it on 425 about 15 minutes. Okay, I got my pie crust in the oven, and I think I told you 15 minutes. We're gonna just do 425 for maybe 10. But this that I cut off, I've just formed it into another little disc, and I'm gonna add it to my frozen, the one I'm gonna be freezing. Because you never know when you need a little extra when you're rolling out your pie, your crust, right? So we're gonna put that in there. I'm gonna get this in the freezer. So the next step is to make our lemon filling, okay? So I'm gonna bring you over to the stove and we're gonna start that process. Look at these beauties I just got delivered in the mail from Amazon. Aren't those gorgeous? They're huge. I'm gonna put those in and they're like the real touch. They kind of have just a little bit of they're not silk. They have just that little bit of latexy, rubbery feel, so it feels like it's a real little bloom. Aren't those beautiful? I'm gonna zoom you in. Gorgeous. Okay, it just came out of the oven, and I did end up baking it, I think it was about 14 minutes actually. I wanted it to get just a little bit browned up. So just watch, everybody's oven is different. So we're gonna let that cool, and then we're going to add our filling. Okay, I have about 2 or 3 inches of water, just brought it to a boil. I've turned it down now to low, and I'm just gonna let it kind of get down to a simmer now. And I'm making a double boiler, so I'm putting a smaller pot inside of it to make the lemon cream part of the pie. Okay, so it's just went down to a simmer, so now I'm going to add in my eggs. The eggs are going to be 4 egg yolks and 3 whole eggs. We're holding back 4 egg whites for the meringue we're going to make on the top. So we're going to whisk together 3/4 cup of lemon juice, all of the eggs, 1 cup of sugar, and some cornstarch, which is going to be 2 tablespoons. Okay, we're going to mix all that, whisk that together, and we're just going to keep stirring always, constantly. I think I might get out my other whisk. We're going to keep whisking and stirring until it thickens. I'm going to switch over to this. This was from Pampered Chef a few years ago. It just has like a flat where you can keep it flat on the bottom of your pan. And you just stir this until it thickens up. And I have not made this for a very, very long time. So I don't even remember how long you have to stir. I changed over to a spatula so I could scrape the bottom a little better. I'm seeing a little bit of thickening occurring, but I think I'm gonna have to go back to my whisk. Yes, it's starting to thicken up now. And if you hear music in the background, that is my TV. Yes, I'm listening to Christmas music. I know everybody thinks I'm kind of weird, but they'll walk in my house and they'll be like, my kids will be like, Mom. I was like, yeah, I know. That's the Christmas music on 24/7 usually, 365 days a year. You can see it's starting to thicken up now. So we're going to continue to stir that until it's thick. We don't want to take it off too soon. We want it to thicken up. It's starting to get thick. I'm going to scrape down the sides real quickly. I think I'm going to let it go maybe another minute, and then we're going to pull it off, and we're going to add in 1/2 cup of butter. Okay, we're going to take it off. And we're going to stir in our butter. 1/2 cup. Just gonna break it up a little bit. Stir that in. Then we're gonna pour it in our pie crust. And we're gonna start on our meringue. Just stir it in until all the butter, you can see the butter's gone. Okay, so we have our totally cooled pie crust. Remember, it's gonna be totally cooled. And we're gonna pour this in there. Gonna even that out a little bit. Okay, so now we're gonna make our meringue for the top of the pie crust. Okay, you put 4 of your egg whites that you've set aside into the bowl. And we're going to beat these until they're foamy. And I do have my oven preheating at 350. See how they just look like they're soapy, foamy, making bubbles? That's where we need to be for that. Then we're going to beat in our cream of tartar with just 1/4 of a teaspoon and our cornstarch, which is also 1/4 of a teaspoon. Let me get those in there. Cream of tartar, cornstarch. And we're going to beat that in there. Then we're going to gradually add in our sugar, which is 1/4 of a cup. And then we're going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Just pause that for a minute, get my vanilla extract in there. There's my oven ready. The vanilla extract gives your meringue that little bit of flavoring. And then you're just going to beat it until it forms some soft peaks. I like to test it and see if, see, it still looks a little jiggly. Needs more time. But it's almost there. There we go. Peaks, stiff peaks. That's what you want. Has a good taste. Let's get it on our pie. You just place it on there. Let me get this all out of here. My mom could make a lemon meringue pie that her meringue would touch the sky. It just was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, it would be double this amount. I don't know how many egg whites she used, but it would be, her meringue was high. I don't like a lot of meringue, but I mean, her meringue was delicious. Don't get me wrong. They were beautiful. Her pies were beautiful. And then I just take my spatula and I just kind of pull up some peaks in there like that. Usually I put that little dollop right in the middle. We're going to get that in the oven and we're going to bake the meringue for about 15 minutes. Now, if I were doing a chocolate pie, I mean a coconut cream, let's do coconut cream first. If I was doing a coconut cream pie, I would sprinkle a little coconut right on the top of that meringue and put it in to bake. If I were doing a chocolate cream pie, when it came out of the oven, I would put a little bit of shavings of chocolate on the top after you baked it. So there it is. We'll check it in about 15 minutes. Now this is what you don't see behind the scenes, all of this. So hopefully I can have most of this cleaned up in 15 minutes before my pie comes out. Alrighty, she just came out. What do you think? You think my husband will like it? I'm not gonna cut it because I want him to look at it before it's cut, and I'll let him cut it. So I'm gonna let it cool. Like I said, I'm not gonna cut it, but I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it gives you some inspiration to bake a pie or something, anything. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Bye.